to deal with. It's a lot to wrestle with. And it's a lot of committee time, and it's a lot of time commitment. And I will also note that in building relationships, we as a council have made a decision that one of the important things about building relationships is actually being able to speak to one another eyeball to eyeball and communicate on a direct level. And we changed even the policy here in this committee, in this council, that you cannot participate on this council other than attending the meeting and voting here in this chamber and not by electronic means. This I find very odd about some of the structures that are currently in existence here in the state of Arizona. There seems to be an allowance for or a tolerance for electronic voting that I've never understood, and I don't think that the people would necessarily understand is a good thing. And Mr. Mayor, you, no question about it, have a lot on your plate. There is no question about it. You have a lot of things that you have to do. You have to be a lot of places, and sometimes a lot of places at one time. And because of that, perhaps that is why oftentimes you need to attend these meetings telephonically and not in person. And so I'm simply saying that I think it's really important that we have the physical presence at those meetings. And I offer my experience to be a part of the committee structure. I offer that to the City of Surprise. I offer that to you in a partnership. I would certainly like to be a partner with you. But I also think that the committee structure, currently having vacancies on the Human Services Council, speaks to the fact that there really needs to be more than one voice from the city in play at the regional council. We have you have all of these staff members speaking to the regional council. You know, I can understand why there's some confusion, but these people are making policy. They're starting to create policy at the staff level and forwarding it to the elected level. And so I can understand why it's confusing that there are so many faces involved. But I think it's really important for the City of Surprise to be seen at the regional table, and for as broad as a population as we represent here in the City of Surprise, I think it's important for someone like Mr. Woodard, who has experience in certain things. Perhaps he can fill a slot at the regional level by serving in a Human Services Committee. Perhaps Mr. Williams has a special talent that he could be exposed to at the regional level. Each of us, I think, brings something to the table. And I think it's unwise in the long range for us to be trying to put all of our eggs in one basket. It gives other members of the council very little exposure in the region, and I don't think that that works to our benefit. And so I have certainly listened to the explanation from you, Mr. Mayor, and also from the overview that was given to us earlier. And I am now to understand that the Executive Committee, unlike what was originally in our packets, is not something that the City Council can vote on. That's not something that we can vote on. So we don't even need to worry about that. We can strike that off. I'm also to understand that you, Mr. Mayor, are appointed, you were asked to come forward to the Transportation Policy Committee by other members of the region. So you are not an appointed member by the council, as in other cities. because we don't have a standing seat. So you were asked to serve in that part as part of the regional balance for the West Metro. That's my understanding.
But I was voted in to serve on the TPC.
As an individual, and this seat is not for us as a city council to choose. That's not for us to choose. Now, if the time comes, and I certainly hope that it comes soon, which leads me to my next question, have you, as a member of the Transportation Policy Committee or as a member of the Regional Council, submitted a request, an application for a standing seat for the city of Surprise on the Transportation Policy Committee?
That demonstrates a lack of understanding of how that works. Is that the 7 standing seats are given by population. It's the 7 largest cities in Arizona, or excuse me, in the region, and we're not there yet.
What I'm asking, though, have you discussed and submitted the interest in?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, that's just what I was just questioning.
Okay. Let me clarify something before we get too far afield, and that is that yes, there are a lot of subcommittees below the 3 major committees, and the reading I did from the various mayors and the chair of the MAG Regional and Supervisor Wilcox was specific to the 3 committees that are consistent with transportation and in their discussions. And frankly, if you go to RPTA, you're going to hear the same thing at TPC, and you're going to hear the same thing at Regional. You've alluded to a fact that I've attended telephonically a couple of those meetings, and that is absolutely true. Because they're important, even if one is ill, a mayor tries to manage to call in so that they can participate, listen, learn, and of course vote. You also mentioned the human services position, which would be great for somebody to fill. If it wasn't so important to Surprise in the region, it would be so easy for me to step aside on one or more of these committees, because it does take a lot of work. But because it's politically expedient for this city, I just can't do that. But I do have a question for City Manager. Councilwoman Wolcott was suggesting perhaps Mr. Woodard, and I'm fine with it, be appointed to the MAG Human Services Committee. But my question is, does Surprise have a Human Services Department?
We provide some human services functions, but we don't have a human services department. One of the things Councilmember Woodward and I talked about was one of the committees, for example, is a Continuum of Care Committee. Continuum of Care Committee is somebody that takes homeless people and then tries to work with the homeless population to secure more permanent housing for them. That's not a pressing need as it relates to the city of Surprise. The other 2 areas that are there is the paratransit or dollar ride is one, and then the only other function that we have, which falls under Parks and Recreation here, would be senior centers. Those would be our 2 primary interfaces.
Yeah, I would be all for building that presence. It's just how many, you mentioned the homeless, in that aspect do we have an understanding where we're at with that?
According to Chief Hughes, the homeless population in Surprise at any given time is between 1 and 4, and the email that he sent to me indicated he wasn't convinced that some of those people made that decision out of choice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do I still have the floor?
Excuse me?
Do I still have the floor?
Well, you may have the floor again if you like.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so I was just trying to go through this logically and talk about the individual committees. And again, Executive Committee, that's not for us to choose. The Transportation Policy Committee, Mayor Truitt currently serves on that. committee, I believe, until June 30th, 2010, and then it's up to the region to decide whether or not to reappoint him. It's really up to the region to decide whether to reappoint him or not in one of the 3 rotating seats. It may very well not even be the city of Surprise. Who knows? Might get that seat. So in the grand scheme of things, we're looking at, this is not a seat that we're going to appoint tonight. Neither is the TPC a seat that we're going to appoint tonight. And so then we move on to the RPTA. We've already discussed the Human Services Committee. We move on to the RPTA. The RPTA is, as I understand it, a standing seat, and we always get an appointment to the RPTA. And as Mayor Truitt has explained to the body and to the audience, he was asked to fulfill the position that had been left open by Mr. Johnson, and that he was also then presented the opportunity to serve as secretary by his peers on the RPTA, and that this committee, actually, he would be serving on until, I believe, December of 2010 as the secretary. And so this is a council decision, given the fact that it was supposed to start January 1st. It is a council decision, and it's my feeling that since the mayor has already placed himself in this position and been affirmed by the colleagues at the RPTA, that I would like to make a motion to affirm his position on the RPTA and as a city council, and hope that I could persuade my colleagues to approve that he remain on the RPTA until December 2010.
A second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, and I think now we should address the regional. And truly, folks, it's about what is the best for Surprise. And as I pointed out, currently 22 of the 25 seats held by municipalities are held by mayors, and that's for a very, very good reason. So if you choose to change that seat out, then I ask that you consider the ramifications, the political ramifications of that for our city with regards to transportation dollars, transportation needs, and the so far, the last 2 years, pretty darn good transportation success that we've had out here, working to get Grand Avenue widened 3 lanes each way from 83rd Avenue to 303, a success. Getting the right-of-way dedicated so that Surprise could be prioritized in the building of the 303, success. And there's been others. Just getting on the the executive committee of RPTA, success. So we're not broken. Once again, we're not broken. We're moving in a great direction. And so, may I have a motion on that?
I move that Mayor Truitt represent City of Surprise on the Regional Council, MAG.
Second. All in favor? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes? Opposed?
No.
No.
May we have a roll call vote?
Yes. Excuse me, Mayor Truitt,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Alton,
No.
Councilmember Walcott,
No.
Councilmember Villanueva,
Yes.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodard,
No.
Councilmember Williams.
Okay. We would need another motion.
That's for you.
I'll make a motion, Skip, serve on the board.
I'll second that. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes? Yes?
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Truitt,
Yes?
Vice Mayor Alton,
No.
Councilmember Wolcott,
No.
Councilmember Villanueva,
Yes.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Woodard,
No.
Councilmember Williams.
No.
I nominate Sharon Wolcott for the position at MAG.
Second.
All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, please note one opposition, Mr. Villanueva. Okay, we need to move on to the other appointments.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Mike Woodard to the MAG Committee on Human Services.
Second.
Is that agendized? Sure.
All of the,
Okay.
these were.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mayor and council, technically, that was not on the agenda.
That's what I was thinking.
Therefore, it wasn't noticed.
I'll bring that back
It
at
was
the
on the
next
supporting
meeting.
material. It was not on the agenda for a decision and for an action.
Perhaps you'd like to refresh us exactly where we can find the specific reference.
It's not in the caption, I guess, is
It's not in the title?
not
the
in the
agenda?
For
title.
the agenda wording, it's not identified.
Bring it back.
Just bring it back.
We'll just bring it back at the next meeting with the staff appointments to go along with this.
That's fine.
Okay,
Can we,
Westmark Economic Development, would that be the next one?
actually, I think the next one was Greater GPEC,
Well, it's not on the agenda either.
isn't it?
That's because it's,
You don't have any control over the GPEC appointments because the
But I understand,
GPEC rules.
but since it was put in the supporting documents, can we not discuss it?
That's Mr. Bill.
To the extent that you're discussing these committees, you can discuss it. However, the items that have been noticed for action are the ones that are
Okay.
actually on the agenda.
We're not taking
wording.
action.
We're not gonna take
I just have
action.
a question, about
do
it.
too.
Is that okay?
To the extent you have an associated question with regards to committees, yes. To the extent we start to wander too
Because
far
I'm
off,
just trying to
I'll
figure
pull
out
you back.
how this works together, because these are positions that are made by the mayor, am I correct?
no.
They're not made by?
Oh, yes, they are by the mayor. They're made by the mayor.
Okay.
According to the GPEC.
And is there a term
No, again,
related to those?
That's the misconception that appears to be going on here tonight, is even those things that they may say have a term, that's very, very loose, because they're not looking to change out people on their boards. They're looking to keep the same ones because it takes there's such a learning curve on the history, and so important to have relationship. So yearly, they will reaffirm the appointment, but they're not looking to change horses in the middle of the stream. They're just looking to make sure that there aren't any major issues.
Well, I have a question. Is she
Sir Alton.
you still have the floor?
No,
Okay, yes. Talking about GPEC, Mayor, when you first took office, one of the first things you did was you appointed Denise Resnick and Steve Betts to represent the Surprise on this board. That means you don't sit on the board, Mayor?
Correct.
And you asked two non-citizens of Surprise to sit on this board?
Yes.
And could you kind of
Sure. And
Tell us why.
understand that because this wasn't an agendized item for action, I wasn't prepared to bring the information I actually have.
Okay.
But when I was appointed mayor, I was approached by GPEC, as is normal fashion, to recommend some leaders in the state that would represent Surprise in a manner that would bring us honor, respect, money, and projects. And I was aware of two people, and I mentioned on the executive committee, because we're 100,000 or more, we have a seat now on GPEC executive committee, and I brought up Steve Betts' name. There were other suggestions made, like Drew Brown from DMB and Associates, also not residents. And there are a few mayors that appoint themselves, but quite frankly, that's not the best use of those positions. It's better to get people who are quite powerful, quite connected in the state that can get things done. Mr. Betts was a integral part of Prop 300. Prop 400 has relationship throughout the state, and also was a very important part behind the scenes of Senate Bill 1407 renewables.
1403.
1403?
1403.
Okay. That renewable bill is one that potentially could bring some very good news to Surprise in terms of job creation and bringing in new employers in the solar realm. And Mr. Betts has just great connections across the state and into into Washington, D.C. on that, and he did a fabulous job. And I have something from Barry Broom that I didn't bring because I wasn't planning on discussing this, but would have shared with you later, that says so much. Denise Resnick and Associates. Denise is a very powerful woman in the state of Arizona. She's, again, extremely connected. As an aside, but also as an explanation, she has an autistic son, so she started a Southwest School for Autism. And the aside is that, but the pertinent part is that she's one of the top fundraisers in the state. And that is a good cause, but it's because Denise has relationship with people across the state. Currently, according to Barry Broom, Denise Resnick is working with the governor to beef up the economic development package that the state of Arizona has to offer. Additionally, and I might need some help here, if anybody remembers the name of the new website that GPEC just put out, does anybody, I told you guys about it. Do you remember the name of the website?
It's called Opportunity Greater Phoenix.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That is, Denise is an integral part of that. So they're working, and they have brought people in their network, in their relationship network, to Surprise to talk about issues that could be of critical importance, like Dr. Geppinger from Midwestern University and others. So, and you know what? I don't really. I'll answer your questions, but I think we need to really take care of what's agendized here, and perhaps it's for a different time.
Yeah, really.
I just have one further question about, just because, again, I'm trying to get back to structure here. Mr. Resnick, or Ms. Resnick and Mr. Betts, are they allowed to serve at the GPEC Board of Directors on behalf of any other city, or just Surprise?
Just Surprise.
Just Surprise. And is there any, are they compensated at all for any
No,
of that?
there is no compensation.
Okay.
And let me maybe anticipate a question. Is there any conflict?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
done. I just wanted that answer.
Then let's go ahead and take care of the rest of our agenda tonight.
Westmark.
I believe that would be Westmark. Westmark Economic Development. Do we have a nomination?
Yeah, I nominate Richard Alton.
Second.
Motion and a second. Everybody in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Unanimous. Westmark, where are we? Water. Do we have a nomination?
Do we have a volunteer?
Do we have a volunteer?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay.
I nominate Skip Hall.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Westmark Transportation.
I'd like to nominate Mayor Truitt.
Actually, I'm going to pass on that one. The truth is that consistency is, again, is the name of the game here for transportation across the valley. And so I would suggest that we nominate somebody that's already going to be representing the city.
I nominate Sharon.
Second? Oh, have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Westmark Education.
Nominate John Williams.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Unanimous. Westmark Healthcare.
Nominate Mike Woodard.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Unanimous.
You want to do any of these?
No.
Westmark Public Affairs.
I'll volunteer since it's pretty much right up there with
You nominate
transportation.
Sharon. Walker.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, I think that concludes item number 31, does it not, City Clerk? One more?
One person to speak.
Oh, one person to speak, okay.
That would be Paula Forrester.
Good. Good to hear her all night.
I'm really sad to have to say this, but as a resident of Surprise, I am embarrassed for what went on here this evening. You are the city council, you've all been elected by the people who live here, and for the kind of rhetoric that went on, I felt like I. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Everyone here is a council person, and I've been down to MAG, okay? And people don't stay on forever. They go on and they go off. And it doesn't have to be mayors just because most of the cities have mayors. And I just want to say, I hope this is not what we're going to have for the rest of the next couple of years where this kind of action goes on, because I don't want to continue to be embarrassed. You want companies to come in here and corporations? You're not going to get them this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, Mayor.
I apologize to Sherry for how I put the paper down.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay. Let's go to item number 32.
Consideration and action on a U.S. Federal Economic Development Administration grant application that would build technical laboratory space at the AZ Techcelerator and attract high-tech and life science jobs requiring matching commitment of $2.5 million to advance.
Mayor, Council. Well, I want to talk to you about an opportunity that we're looking at that would help us build the necessary facilities to get technical laboratory space if indeed we are going after the biosciences. I just want to remind you, in previous workshops, we had talked about this grant. So I know we discussed it in October of 08 and we discussed it in April of 09, that we were going to be looking at a number of federal stimulus funding mechanisms, and this is one of them. And this is a pretty big deal. The Western representative for this grant let me know that really he only gives about 6 of these a year. And really, when we first met with him, he really told us we weren't qualified until we dug a little bit deeper and we realized all of the dynamics at play in that area. It's designed for distress. Typically, Maricopa County won't even be looked at. We were considered because the Techcelerator happens to be in the original town site. And it had numbers that piqued his interest, the fact that it's a CDBG qualified area. There were lots of things that turned this around and made us eligible to get it. So it's a competitive grant because they award you, it is a 50-50 match, but they give you a lot of money. They call them investments. This is sort of interesting. They call them investments, not grants. What's eligible is anything that would help a building get built or infrastructure get paved, anything that would help an area either retain or create new jobs, and typically jobs that are of a certain caliber. So these are the requirements of it. Most of these grants are in the millions, but I've seen them dabble in, from 100,000 upward. In December of '09, I looked this up on their website, just in December of last year, they gave out 33 of these. They totaled about $52.8 million. These are big deals. Recipients in Arizona, actually the grant was issued to the NAU to do their incubator. They built 10,000 square feet from the ground up, and when they got there, they realized they didn't have the match, and the city of Flagstaff came in and helped them out and partnered with them. So just to let you know, not everybody has that matching fund in place when they apply. And the U of A had awarded one successfully. Gateway Community College, similar to us. They're in Phoenix, but they're in a distressed area, so they were able to work that out. And I called upon them and looked at their application and talked with them and have begun collaborating to some degree to move forward with this. And some examples I wanted to throw out to you was that there was an announcement these were December announcements in Pennsylvania to construct another technology innovation center, and one in the city of Chico that helped 3 different arterial roads get constructed to between those job centers and an airport. So it can be a variety of things. It has to be infrastructure. It has to be in a distressed area. There were a lot of, as you might imagine, disaster recovery type issuances recently. So just to give you that in perspective. What we're proposing and what we've proposed to the EDA, and we did a lot of homework on this. We looked at market demand. We know we need flexible space. We know that the companies that are in the life sciences and other really high-tech companies that would use the space need office as well. So we don't want to go crazy, but we want to find a good happy medium. So I engaged about 8 different companies in the industries of architecture and engineering and in construction. And if you look down the list, I calculated, building A was kind of the former HR area, if you remember. There were, and I have that on the sample slide. There's maybe, I analyzed it from a perspective of where's the water in the building, where are the drains, and that sort of thing. So we could carve 2,000 square feet out of that. Building B is a former community development department. There's a huge area where there used to be a kitchen in a former life, so we've carved about 3,500 square feet out. Building C was water services IT. We've looked at about 1,500 square feet, and Building D obviously was your former council city management area, and big building, about 18,700 square feet. There's about 3,000 square feet we can pull out of that. So about 20% of the total facility, we saw some eligibility for lab conversions. Now, you may ask, how did we get here? So we're looking at technical space. We're looking at wet lab, dry lab, clean room. We're told by the EDA that it's always better to overestimate what you need. If you're trying to kind of be conservative and you only ask for, let's say, $2 million, but you need $10 million, that's not going to help you, and that's not going to help anybody make jobs. So they really want you to get real with, what's it going to be, and overestimate it, not under. It's an up to. So, and again, we derived a lot of estimates out. So we, frankly, see a lot of construction costs being involved in that. Interestingly, we may, just to show you how ahead of the curve I am on this monument sign, we could have a budget here to look at that sign in terms of structural. So, hey, we're already kind of checked that off the list a bit. And, of course, A&E fees, I have plenty of those here calculated, but that totals up to about $5 million. So it's a good solid round number that we estimated to build that type of space. And it's a renovation. So what does the approval of this item mean? I want to be clear. I'm not here asking you to just write me a check. That would be great if you wanted to, but what I'm asking you to do is to help me advance this application. There would be at least a 12-month decision time frame for this to take place. We all know how fast the world changes in 12 months. And I would ask you during that time, let's look at the match options. They don't all have to be from the applicant. One thing I wanted to mention, EB5 is an investor visa program that I'm looking at. I'm looking at putting a proposal together and talking with Mr. Oliver and Mark Coronado about it. But I'm checking to see if the Techcelerator may be an applicant for funding for foreign direct investment, and that could qualify. We could look at public-private partnerships. We could look at corporate sponsorships. There are a variety of ways to start attacking this. So what it would do, we would be committed to job creation. This is about the future. It would give us a lot of credibility, and we may have folks here that have done these grants before. It pulls a lot of weight for you to move forward. Once you've inquired, you sort of have to be ready to move forward if you're qualified, and we are. And mainly what this means, what approval of this means, is that we have options. So we can accept the grant, we can accept some of the grant, because it's an up to, not a total. Or we might get to that place where NAU did originally and say, you know, we had all the best of intentions of doing this, but we just can't do it. So again, just gives us options. And that's the end.
Questions, comments, Mr. Hall?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What would this buy us? A wet lab, for one?
Yes. It buys you flexible space, a wet lab, which would entail, if you've had a chemistry class, you know, it's drains, it's hoods, and I've applied for fixed equipment as a portion of it, so anything that would be attached and part of our structure. So we would need to upgrade the space. There needs to be ventilation. There needs to be lots of things that need to happen. The other would be for dry lab space. We need space that, you know, you can set up a computer laboratory. You can do things that maybe don't necessarily include wet lab and chemicals and experiments and that sort of thing.
Okay.
The other would be a clean room space. Clean room, a lot of industries need clean room. A lot of high-tech industries need clean room.
Right.
So.
Okay, then clarifying the EB5 program, that's a foreign investor, and it's a quick way for him to get, or her to get, a green card.
Correct. The EB5 program started in 1992. The U.S. allows about 10,000 applicants a year. 3,000 of them, well, you have to pay $1 million basically and get a green card. So you can either, and what that'll get you is you can either invest that $1 million into a place, an existing infrastructure or an existing place that creates jobs. So you can invest in a company, you can start a new company, and you know, you don't even have to live in proximity to that company, from what I understand. You can
Right.
Somebody could invest in one of the Techcelerator companies and live in San Diego if they wanted. There are things called regional centers, and there are several hundred of them across the U.S. There are none in Arizona. I've learned from the Arizona Department of Commerce that we would qualify as a regional center. We have the necessary unemployment statistics in that area. So what that does, it's like an enterprise zone. Instead of that investor having to pay $1 million, they only have to pay $500,000. And the U.S. government only allows 3,000 of the 10,000 investor visas a year to go to be into regional centers.
Okay. Thank you, Janine.
Mr. Alton?
Thank you. Janine, I had read someplace that if you apply for a federal grant for matching funds and a year or two years later it gets approved and you have no matching funds, that chances of getting another federal grant are pretty slim to none. Correct?
This is my first federal grant.
Have you applied for this grant, Jean?
No. Well,
What I'm hearing you say is I've already included that. I have done this.
I'm down the path with the representative. They don't push it through until you have all of the pieces together. I've put together a very comprehensive package for them to consider, but there needs to be this element of commitment to matching the funds in there. The committees that judge these things want to know that they've got a partner with skin in the game, which makes sense to most of us.
We applied for it. I mean,
You applied for this grant?
we filled out the paperwork. What it provided for was a $2.5 million match. from the proposed GO bond. As you're aware, the GO bond didn't pass. What the representative wanted from the city is some indication that the city still wants to go forward, even though that didn't pass. That's why this is before you this evening.
You have $2.5 million, Randy?
I can borrow it. The question is, how do you repay it?
You can get it.
You know, the bond did not pass. Therefore, I think we probably shouldn't have gone this far unless we got an approval from the council in advance.
I don't agree.
I just don't see, you got to show me the money. And, when you show me the money, that's great. I don't want to jeopardize our position in the federal government for future grants, driving down this road and not having the capability of delivering. Yes.
Mayor Truitt, Vice Mayor Alton. In many cases, that would be true, but with this particular grant with the EDA, they know that this is opportunity for an entity such as a city to come in, and it's in phases. It's done in phases. Sometimes you can get through the first portion of a federal grant and you can disqualify yourself, but you need to go through steps before you realize that it could come true. But in this case, with this and being such a big grant, they make allowances for that, for this particular type of federal grant.
It might have been helpful to maybe have that little dialogue in advance on grant writing and how grants work. And maybe not too many of us know how that happens.
And to support Janine as well, I mean, she's had some support from Joy as well, myself. So, I mean, she's had... I think not. In addition to that, the representatives from EDA, so she's been coached. I don't think there was any point here where you pull until you decide to come to council and to say, hey, we have a proposal.
I would say this, and it's a matter of timing. It is likely it will get funded. This has been a priority item under some of the stimulus money. There was additional money that was put out there for these types of endeavors because the current administration views technology advancements as being important. I think the things that this grant has going for it that we don't, all of the ones that I've been involved with before have all been new buildings. This is in a CDBG eligible area, which that's somewhat unusual. Number one, this is an adaptive reuse of a building. Number two, which to the feds, they find intriguing, things that are different.
Mr. Woodard.
Are we locked in? We're applying for $2.5 million. Let's say we get 6 months down the road and we find out that we can't match $2.5 million, but we could match $1.25 million. Is that flexible? I mean, do we have to take the whole amount, or do we get to have a piece of the pie?
No, you get reimbursed as you go.
Ms. Wolcott.
Thank you, Mayor. That actually was part of my question, and because of the CDBG issue, I'm wondering are there CDBG funds available to match as you go?
Can't match federal money with federal money. They won't allow that.
That money, once it's been distributed to us, then does not qualify as local money. It's still federal money. Okay. As Janine is able to bring forward perhaps public-private partnerships, are we able to do it then just piecemeal? I think that's what Mr. Woodard is getting at, is are we able to do it in smaller increments?
Oh, absolutely. It's you're right. It's like I said, it's a reimbursement. So it's like with we go to the restaurant here and we take a prospect to lunch or something, and I have to submit a receipt in order to get paid back. It's the same.
Yeah, the only thing I would caution is there will be a spend out window. You're not going to be able to sit at the restaurant for 3 days.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. I don't see any other speakers. Can we have an action?
Motion to approve the advancement of the U.S. Federal Economic Development Administration grant application for renovation and technical laboratory infrastructure development at the AZ Tech Accelerator, requiring commitment of $2.5 million in matching funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Before we go to a vote, I believe we have somebody from the public like to speak.
George Christopherson.
He's been so patient. Thank you.
You bring your lunch, George?
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
I'm Dr. George Christopherson, and a citizen of Surprise out of Arizona Traditions, mayor and council. Boy, it's been a long evening. I hope you can stay awake. Us old folks have a little problem with that once in a while. But in support of this, cite a couple of things. You're investing kind of in the future here, something down the road. A couple interesting articles in the national news and the Arizona news here this past week and a half. One, they did a study in Florida about which communities were seeing more sales in real estate than others. And one of the characteristics that wasn't contributing to sales was golf courses. What was contributing to sales was ambiance and arts and education and those types of things. I think that's an indication that the boomers are having a much greater effect on the elder real estate investments than anticipated. The second piece was an article in the business section of the Arizona Republic, which cited some numbers and statistics on where Arizona has seen the greatest percentage of job loss. And in that, the technical sector had the least amount or percentage of job loss. So these types of jobs are more recession, inflation, whatever the system says we're going through, they'll still be there, which adds some stability to the area. I'm also part of something called the AZ Bio Resource Network, and at our last meeting, Robert Green spoke, and he talked about communities that were involved in biotech and advancing biotech. And his comment about Surprise was, and there is a little effort in Surprise going on. And so I think that we were recognized, but we're not recognized as a major player currently. Having been involved with some of the biotech startups, is what I prefer to call them, as early stage, because each segment of this market, early stage, means something different in terms of timelines. Money is not available for a lot of these companies. They don't have the big bang buck story to tell. But the holdup is when we show them facilities, the facility is very nice, but they have to invest a considerable amount of their own money to get just to the basics. And that's what we're talking about here, is putting basics in, things that if they're specialty labs, you'd probably ask the potential tenant startup to put the special things in there, but you can put in plumbing, electrical, floors, ceilings, make sure the sprinkler systems work and those kinds of things. And you can do it step by step by step and move that forward. So I think it's a great investment. And as a citizen Surprise, I would like to see something that stabilizes budgets and those kinds of things, at least has an impact on it. If you expect to turn it over in 90 days, forget it. 5 years, you're well on the road. And so that's my 52 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have one question.
For Alton.
Just one question. Janine? George?
Yes.
Was mentioning about TIs and that kind of stuff. And what kind of obligation are we going to have on as a city to bring those buildings up to code in order to facilitate these grant improvements?
What sorts of obligations?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to cost the city any money to bring these buildings up to standards or increased standards than they are now, prior to the feds giving us some grant money in order to make
I see, to
the
qualify.
improvements?
to qualify for the grant, do we have to spend any money, is what you're asking?
No, we have space available that is not necessarily in the best condition.
Right.
Okay? Do we have to bring those buildings up to a standard that they currently are not at the present time prior to getting a grant, receiving a grant?
I think that Mr. Mihalik would be in a better position to answer that, but typically you don't have to bring a building up to the current standards unless your renovations exceed a certain amount. This would not exceed those certain amounts to precipitate
So
that.
you're saying, City Manager, that it's not going to cost us any money in order to
Oh, we
bring
may
the
have to
buildings
do-
up to par?
We may have to do some minor things, but, I mean, you don't have to go in and do wholesale changes.
Okay. Because I thought if we were going to sell the building at one time, we were going to have to put a couple $1 million into it just to bring it up to a saleable condition. Okay? And that's what I'm having a hard time with.
The most valuable part of that building right now, based upon the appraisal, is the land.
Well, I understand that. But I just don't want to obligate the city down the road for something that you're saying is going to be negligible. Okay? I mean, I just don't want to see that happen. So I'm just asking the question to see if we have to bring it up to standard prior to doing this grant.
I thought Mihalik might be behind me. My understanding is that if it is for the office space use can stay consistent. I mean, I don't know.
And then lab space?
Lab space, gosh, you know, I think that's just, I believe the answer is no.
It depends what they're doing in the lab space. If they're making nitroglycerin, the requirements change. If they're making aspirin as part of a laboratory, thing, then it's not a big deal. So there's some discernment based upon what the intended purpose is.
I'll get an answer for you.
Thank you.
Please don't worry.
Thank you. Anything further? We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
We need Councilmember Hall and Councilmember Woodard.
Hold it down, count to 30.
I did.
2.
Thank you.
I have to have special training.
I'm going to go longer.
Unanimous vote, Mayor.
You, item number 33.
And that's consideration and action on items to be placed on future agendas.
Anybody have anything to put on a future agenda?
Yes.
Mr. Woodard.
I would like to see, bring forward a review of the Dysart facility use fee. That subject, I'd like to see that brought back for discussion and possible action.
I'll second that.
Okay, anything else? Okay, and I don't believe we have Mr. Bailey. Mr. Bailey, I don't believe we have executive session.
No, not this evening.
What a
Thank
shame.
you.
This meeting is adjourned.
Or state your case and see what others think on our new survey site. And there's more to come in the future. Check it out at surpriseaz.com. Get financially fit in the new year by taking a free financial fitness class in Surprise. The college planning course is March 10th. Find new ways to address the high cost of college and more. Class runs from 6:30 to 8 p.m. in the City Hall Conference Room, N1 150. That's on the first floor next to the City Store. To register, call 623-222-3242. Want to learn more about how city government operates and become an effective leader in the community? Make plans to attend the next Surprise City Academy. This is your chance to learn how your government works. Participants will learn firsthand about city funding, structure, operations, and more. The classes begin February 16th, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. and will run for a period of 10 weeks. Most classes will be held in the auditorium of the Surprise Public Safety Building. For an application, call 623-222-3242. The City of Surprise is ready to welcome back the Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals to town, and you can be part of the celebration at the Mayor's Welcome Back Lunch, February 26th at Surprise Stadium. Enjoy great food and hear from the team's managers as they discuss the upcoming 2010 season. Tickets are $30 per person or $210 for a business table of 8. Get your tickets today at the Surprise Community and Recreation Services office next to Surprise Stadium. For more information, call 623-222-2000 or visit surprisespringtraining.com. Help name Village 1 in Surprise. Visit surpriseaz.com and click on the survey link and cast your vote today. The choices are Civic Center, Grand Village, Surprise Center, Alba Free Village, and Downtown Surprise. Village 1 includes the Surprise Stadium and Tennis Complex, City Hall, and the original town site. While online, you can learn more about the Village concept. The Surprise Senior Center will close for a few days starting at 1 p.m. Thursday, February 11th. Crews will install new tile in the dining hall and adjacent areas. The new flooring is made possible thanks to a federal community development block grant. The center will reopen on Tuesday, February 16th, following the President's Day holiday.
If a picture is worth 1,000 words, this is worth millions. As the City of Surprise turns the big 5-0 in 2010, Surprise 11 sits down with some of the men and women who have helped to shape this community into what it is today. We hear from historians, past and present city employees, and longtime residents, many of whom were some of the first people to call Surprise home.
My dad was on the school board for many years. Later, one of my sisters with her family lived in the area, and she was on that school board for 15 or so years as well. We all all 12 of us went to school there.
Also helping to tell the story of Surprise, the city has asked citizens to lend their old photos, newspaper clippings, and other historical documents. And the community has responded with unprecedented support. In fact, thousands of vital pieces of history have come in from near and far to help piece together our unique history, bringing into focus this special video project. The video is also designed to complement the new historical book commemorating the 50th anniversary of Surprise. As a whole, the mission of this project is to capture the history of Surprise, to reflect on the city's past, to celebrate its 50th anniversary in the present, and to help pave the way for the future, for future generations to enjoy. The story of Surprise. It's a history in progress.
Hey, surprise! Did you know that year-round and part-time residents and non-American citizens included are required to fill out and return the Census 2010 form for an accurate population count? Each counted resident represents $1,300 in federal funds to support our local transportation, public safety, senior center, hospital, and other important needs. If you'd rather not have a census surveyor at your home, complete and return the census form as soon as you receive it by mail. All info is confidential. Learn more at surpriseaz.com/census 2010. And remember, Census 2010, count me in. Bring your life together in beautiful Surprise, Arizona. Have fun with the family and watch the pros at our award-winning tennis complex in Surprise Stadium, home to Cactus League Baseball. Rejuvenate your spirit in our magnificent White Tank Mountains. Expand your mind at our unique community, offering 2-year degrees up to graduate-level courses. Join the hundreds of new businesses that have opened this year and discover your compassionate side in a place where neighbors help each other. Bring your life together in Surprise. Learn more at surpriseaz.com.
I never get the flu.
My kids don't need more shots.
I don't have time.
We're all healthy.
My asthma's under control.
But I'm pregnant.
I've had the flu before. It's not a big deal.
My kids are too old for flu.
The media is exaggerating.
I can fight it naturally.
My diabetes, it's under control.
No matter how you build your excuses, H1N1 swine flu can blow your house down.
I can't believe I used up all my sick time.
I missed a week of school during finals.
Now my baby has it because of me.
The hospital? Death?
Keep your foundation strong. Vaccinate. Learn more at flu.gov.
A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The Surprise City Council meets the second and fourth Thursdays of each month here at City Hall at 6 p.m. You can watch the meetings live on Surprise 11. The Surprise Planning and Zoning Commission meets the first Tuesday of every month at the City Hall Council Chambers, 16,000 North Civic Center Plaza, and you can check the broadcast here on Surprise 11. Dial-A-Ride in Surprise is at your service. To schedule a ride weekdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., call 623-222-1622. Become a Surprise volunteer. There are plenty of opportunities to choose from. Training is provided and the hours are flexible. Call 623-222-1500 for more information. Surprise is proud to offer curbside recycling. Do your part by recycling the right way. If you use a blue recycle container, no bags, please. And for the black trash bin, please use a bag. And remember, it's a violation to block sidewalks. Place these bins on the street, wheels to the curb. If you find a beehive on your property, don't call 911 unless the bees pose a threat. Also, don't call the fire department. You will need to call a bee specialist or exterminator for safe removal. You can find them in the yellow pages. Help keep Surprise beautiful. Join the Adopt a Street program. Groups there work to pick up litter along 1-mile stretches of Surprise roadways at least 4 times a year. Training is required and necessary tools and clothing will be provided. You must be at least 12 years of age to participate. Looking to land a career with the city? Then visit surpriseaz.com/soar. You can apply for city jobs online, track the status of that position 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Surprise Fire Department reminds all residents that they will provide and install a free battery-operated smoke detector to anyone that currently does not have one or whose system is not functioning. There is a limit of 1 battery-operated smoke detector per home. Call the fire department to schedule an installation at 623-222-5000. The City of Surprise has added many new recreation programs for individuals with disabilities. To check out all the great adaptive recreation opportunities in Surprise, visit surpriseaz.com/adaptive or call 623-222-2257. Why go to court to settle a neighbor or property maintenance dispute when you can go to mediation? Surprise offers free confidential mediation services to residents. Please call 623-222-3242 for additional information. The City of Surprise now offers a one-stop website to answer some of your biggest questions as a resident. Not sure what day your trash gets picked up or who your council member is? Get all the answers you need at My Surprise Address. Go to surpriseaz.com/mysurpriseaddress and type in your home address, and you'll instantly receive all that information and much more, including property tax info and contact information for utilities and libraries. Rental property owners, listen up for a change to the transaction privilege tax filing requirements. If you own 2 or more rental properties within a non-commercial zone in the state of Arizona and at least 1 located here in Surprise, you are now required to report and pay the transaction privilege tax. For licensing fee and other filing information, please call the city's transaction privilege tax auditors at 623-222-1840 or 623-222-1841. Sign up for emergency text alerts or emails through the Surprise Emergency Alert System. It allows officials to send public safety alerts, missing person reports, Amber Alerts, and other important emergency messages to registered users. You can choose to receive alerts 24/7 or select daytime alerts only. Register online at surpriseaz.com/emergency alerts. The Surprise Community and Recreation Services Department is recruiting volunteer van drivers to pick up and drop off participants attending senior center programs. Drivers are needed Monday through Friday for 4 or 6-hour daytime shifts, once or twice a week. Potential volunteers must pass the background check, have an Arizona driver's license, and maintain a clean driving record. For more information, contact Surprise Senior Center at 623-222-1500. Spring Training 2010 in Surprise features a 29-game schedule as the Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals host multiple visits by the Diamondbacks, Cubs, Dodgers, and more. Opening day at Surprise Stadium kicks off Thursday, March 4th with the annual charity game benefiting the Surprise Sundancers and their efforts in supporting youth programs here in the West Valley. For ticket information and to see a complete schedule, visit surprisespringtraining.com. Have you checked out SurpriseAZ.com lately? It's the one-stop shop for you to connect and interact with City Hall. Sign up for Notify Me and get city news sent directly to your inbox. Join the hundreds already following Surprise on Twitter. Got a problem that needs fixing? Try 222-CARE. Real-time Surprise traffic alerts go straight to your phone or email by signing up at surpriseaz.com/traffic alerts. Or state your case and see what others think on our new surveys. Hi, I'm Diane Arthur, and welcome to this edition of On the Road, where we keep you up to date on transportation-related issues right here in Surprise. Today, we're talking about the widening of Grand Avenue. And to talk about this very huge project, an important project for our residents, is Doug Ninsel from the Arizona Department of Transportation. Doug, it's good to see you. Thanks for stopping in.
Thank you, Diane. I guess it's a grand occasion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
You know, that's what happens when we get into government jobs after a while. We find the humor where we can.
Yes, we do. But thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. You know, Grand Avenue is very important for not only Surprise residents, but for, you know, the West Valley in particular. 6 lanes, that's the expansion. And what are we talking about in terms of where are we starting and moving down the line?
Right. With a couple of projects that we would want to talk about this today. And one of those things would be the first project is being launched this fall, and that is in between 83rd Avenue and 99th Avenue, where we are widening Grand Avenue. And then a second project, a sister project, if you will get underway near the start of the new year, and that will be in between 99th Avenue and the Loop 303. But they're going to accomplish basically the same thing in different stretches where, as you mentioned, going to 6 lanes. So those of us who use Grand Avenue, those of us who say, boy, we could use some more lanes out here, that's going to be realized now by adding the 3rd lane in each direction.
Now, there's some sidewalk being added in a stretch of this project too, correct?
Right, and along there, as I look at it, along the southeast bound direction of Grand Avenue, in other words, toward the downtown Phoenix area, that's the side of Grand Avenue where we'll be adding sidewalk in areas where sidewalks don't currently are not currently in place. So again, sidewalks, you're looking at improved lighting. We're going to be making improvements to turn bays, adding some additional left turn bays for drivers at strategic locations, not every intersection, but we are going to be doing that. And I think what folks can look forward to also, really the improved signage. There will be improved even overhead signage as you approach, say, the intersection with Loop 101. So there are things that we're doing. And even one of the things that was mentioned to me is the fact that in this area, some of the signs are going to be done in a way where we increase the size of the lettering on the signs to make them that much more friendly to drivers, and not just picking out senior citizens in the area, but it's an improvement for all drivers. But again, it is one of the things that we want to do up in this region. Test that out and see what the reaction actually is.
Now, some of this work is already underway, but what's the completion, the final timeline for completion? I know you guys love to answer those questions.
Yes, we do, and as we work on these projects, really we want folks to know, think about the year 2011. So in 2009, heading toward the year 2011. The first project, as an example, in between 83rd Avenue and 99th Avenue, it is targeted to be a 12-month to 18-month time period. You split the difference there, and you're at about 15 months of work. So I think that's what we'll be looking at, 2011. The other project in between 99th Avenue and Loop 303, we'd be looking again at the year 2011. It's just that that project is getting underway a few months after the first.
If I take that commute, what am I going to expect as a driver? I imagine some traffic restrictions during the work.
Yeah, and there's no sugarcoating it either. I think it's important that folks know in between 83rd and 99th Avenues, it's a more narrow corridor for the crews to work with that particular contractor. So what you're going to be looking at really is that a work zone is going to be set up with temporary barrier walls. So the crews will work to the outside of Grand Avenue, but they'll have to go down to one lane in each direction through that stretch. So it's that word of warning to folks that, yes, it's going to be a construction zone. We have to get through this in order to have the reward at the end of the journey, and that is to get it to 3 lanes in each direction. So, again, looking for single lanes in each direction through there. Now, the loop, the 99th Avenue to Loop 303 project, what we'll look at is maintaining the existing 2 lanes in each direction.
Right.
And that is good news for drivers. We'll be looking for probably a shifting of lanes in order to have the work zone in place. However, we're going to be working to maintain the 2 lanes in each direction, and that affects Surprise more directly. Still going back a little bit on that single lane in each direction, we do know that affects Surprise residents as well because they're commuting back and forth, but we need to get through that work zone situation in order to really accomplish the goal. As I say, please keep the eye on the prize, and that is that we're going to get to 3 lanes in each direction.
Yeah, and mind those speed limits during the construction phase. Slow it down.
You
know,
bet.
we want to keep drivers safe and those guys out there doing the work. So
I appreciate you bringing that up. And from a safety standpoint, it's so important that folks heed the speed limits. Please don't be speeding through these work zones because we have workers out there. And the other thing about that is it's not just that we have the workers, and many times they are working behind barrier walls. From a safety standpoint, you have less room for error as you're a driver along the roadway. So, again, a little bit more distance between vehicles, slowing down, observing those speed limits that are set because they are set for you and your passengers.
Day or night work, a combination of both? I mean, this is a big undertaking, so I imagine we'll be working as much as we can, as quickly as we can.
And you're right. We will be doing that. So it really is both day and night work. I think there'll be a big concentration on trying to do as much during the daylight hours as possible, but we cannot get away from the nighttime work as well. We'll be working with local neighborhoods. We obviously will work with businesses as well to see what we can do to lessen the impact as we're doing the work out there, especially from a noise standpoint, from a dust standpoint. We're going to do all we can to minimize that, and we have to work with our contractor on that as well because ultimately they're responsible for the work that they're doing. We're there to administer the project, to oversee what they're doing, and we certainly want to really minimize the impacts that we're having both on local neighborhoods as well as, say, the businesses that are along Grand Avenue.
Quite a few of those, too.
No doubt about it, and subjects such as, access to driveways, and we're going to be working very hard with our contractor to maintain access to the driveways, and I think it's very important to also let residents know, if you're watching the show, we still want to urge folks, don't abandon Grand Avenue and don't abandon the businesses along the way. They're going to need you during the course of a project like this. Ultimately, the businesses are going to benefit from a wider Grand Avenue, the improvements that are going in, but it's not easy to get through a period of time like this.
As we look forward to a new and improved Grand Avenue, nice expanded lanes, kind of walk us through the history of Grand Avenue, because it is a pretty interesting history of what was just a small little road turned into a way to get to California, turned into what we're using it for today.
That's right. I don't want to date myself and say that I'm the official historian of things, but it's been very interesting watching these projects come to fruition, to actually see them develop and learn a little bit more about US 60 and Grand Avenue, because just to pay a visit up to Wickenburg, for example, and see how Wickenburg treats US 60, and even the Main Street in Wickenburg, that used to be one of the busiest intersections in the state of Arizona. And so you're thinking back through the decades, the importance of US 60 really was one where if you were traveling from Los Angeles, if you were traveling to or from northern Arizona up through Prescott, US 60 played a big role in you getting there. And, things change over time. Development has changed. And, of course, we have to mention, guess what came along? I-10 and also I-17. So things do change. The Northwest Valley in the Phoenix area has changed as well. The railroads came through. The concentration of the freight traffic along the railroad tracks continued, and some of the agriculture developed. And now, here we are with the development that has occurred with folks living in the area. So what used to be the highway, US 60, really is serving more as a local roadway and not so much as a highway. And that still is a challenge for ADOT in that we concentrate on the state highway system for Arizona. So Grand Avenue remains very important to us, but it's a challenge for us to continue to develop what was a state highway, make improvements, even though the roadway is more and more acting or serving more as a local roadway.
A busy local roadway at that. Yeah. Here we are in 2009, and we're just now at that point where we can start expanding the lanes to accommodate modern-day traffic flows.
Right.
But it is a work in progress. It's something that just can't happen overnight. There's a lot of partners involved in a project like this.
And I'm glad you brought that up, that folks might think, well, they just make a decision one day to add a third lane in each direction. And ADOT has wanted to do this project for many years, and local residents have wanted us to do the project as well. But what happens is you look ahead to things and you work with the Maricopa Association of Governments as the umbrella organization for freeway or highway planning in the greater Phoenix area. The various cities in the valley are members of MAG. So MAG as an organization is representing the cities, and from a federal standpoint acting as the freeway planning entity for the greater Phoenix area. So ADOT, primarily as the builder, is working with MAG on these things. And so we've been looking ahead to improvements along Grand Avenue for a number of years. What comes into play? Well, it's money. It's when the funding is going to be available. The good news was that Proposition 400 was approved by the voters back in 2004. That meant another 20-year extension of the half-cent sales tax that is paid here in the greater Phoenix area for transportation projects. And so over the 20-year time period, the money will be available for the various freeway or highway projects. This time around, there is more money going into local road projects as well as some of the transit projects that you see. But the funding is now available. But one of the other good things is these Grand Avenue projects would have waited a little bit longer. However, we've been able to accelerate because of the Federal Recovery Act.
Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, the fact that we would still be waiting probably a few more years if it weren't for the federal dollars that are coming in to help fast-track this.
And with the American Recovery Act coming along, the money was made available to all the states. Arizona's no exception to the rule. And from an ADOT standpoint, more than $300 million available to do highway work around the state. A share of that money comes into Maricopa County for MAG to make decisions on what are the priorities. And in this case, we had a number of initial projects. The widening of I-17 in between Carefree Highway and Anthem Way, the widening of I-10 in the far west valley from Saraville Avenue on out to Verrado Way. Those are two major projects being done because the Recovery Act funding is available. And then MAG and ADOT took a look at things, and two of the projects that were eligible, because the design process was far enough along, we knew we could break ground on the project sooner. and these were the Grand Avenue projects. So that's the good news, that we are able to build them sooner.
Well, we are happy to have you here and get the work started.
You bet.
But Grand Avenue widening isn't the only major project that ADOT's involved with here within the city of Surprise. While I have you here, I have to ask about the 303. What's the status of the Loop 303?
Well, I'm, again, glad you asked about Loop 303. We're looking forward to the work that will continue to take place and the improvements. In the Surprise area, I think folks are noticing some of the work at Bell Road and the Loop 303 corridor where a bridge is being put in place. These are projects where we're working at Cactus as well as Waddell and Bell to make interchange improvements and get this work done now in advance of the larger project that will actually build the freeway to attach to those improvements. But it's going to make that project down the road that much easier by doing these advanced projects now. So that's what's going on as you look and wonder what are they doing at any particular location. That work is being done in advance of the bigger project to build Loop 303 as a full-fledged freeway. From
6 lanes, correct?
Correct, and that'll be from I-10 north and ultimately all the way to Interstate 17. It gets a little complex in dividing the projects up into the different locations, but ultimately we will have Loop 303 as a full-fledged freeway. The interesting thing for folks is to see this advanced work taking place now, but then also wonder what's going on a little farther to the north as we are working in the Peoria area, for example, near Happy Valley Parkway and really even over to Lake Pleasant Parkway. The Loop 303 is being built now as an interim roadway or highway where when it opens to traffic in the year 2012, it'll primarily be 2 lanes in each direction in order to get traffic moving on it. That also involves funding and how much funding was available to work on them right now. But yeah, that's what we're doing to put those things in place. But again, if you're traveling north and you're on Lake Pleasant Parkway and you've seen a bridge being put in place that travels over the freeway corridor, that's what that represents, the start of the work to ultimately provide residents, even here in Surprise, with another way to travel on out to Interstate 17. That connection to I-17 will happen 2 miles south of Carefree Highway.
Okay.
So when you're traveling to and from northern Arizona, there'll be that an alternate way now. You won't have to come all the way into the valley. You'll be able to use Loop 303.
Well, we're excited about another smooth transportation route, but it's also going to be a good economic corridor for the Northwest Valley, so we're looking forward to it.
Correct, and it doesn't happen overnight, and that's why I said the year 2012 is what we're looking ahead to as far as opening Loop 303 to traffic.
And if anyone has any questions about the Grand Avenue project or the Loop 303, what's the best way to contact ADOT?
And I think we're going to possibly be able to put the hotline that we have for the Grand Avenue projects up on the screen.
Absolutely.
So we do have the project hotline. We recommend, even if you want to receive email letters that update the project, you can call the project hotline, and then also just know that you can go online to the ADOT webpage, either at www.azdot.gov and click on Valley Freeways there, or we have a faster way to do it, and that is just simply going to valleyfreeways.com. That takes you directly to a website that is list all the Valley Freeway corridors, including, you'll see US 60, where you can then click on Grand Avenue, or you can click on Loop 303 and then zero in on what part of Loop 303 you'd like some updates on. So there are ways to stay up to date.
Great. Doug, again, thank you for your time, all the great information. And it's going to be a little heartburn out there for a little while, but boy, when everything's finished, sure will be nice.
Yeah, patience is going to be the key word. So we, again, appreciate you giving us the time to let folks know a little bit more about the Grand Avenue projects.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thank
Okay.
you. And we want to thank you, too, for watching this edition of On the Road. And keep track of the construction out there. Slow down. Follow those posted speed limits. We want everyone to be safe. And looking forward to a new and improved, expanded Grand Avenue. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Jeff Mahela, Community Development Director for the City of Surprise, and I'd like to share with you some very important information with you regarding the Census 2010 and why it's so important that each and every Surprise resident fill out their census form as soon as they receive it by mail. Let's go ahead and get started. The census is really an American tradition. It's important because it's part of our United States Constitution. The first census was conducted in 1790, and President George Washington himself received the results. Fewer than 4 million people were part of the United States back in 1790, and President Washington was actually concerned back then about undercounting, which is why we have the census today. Why do we do it? The census assures that we have correct congressional representation, and the census also determines whether Arizona will get enough electoral votes. It's also important to keep in mind that census numbers are used to distribute $450 billion nationwide. So it's important for us to make sure that we get our share of the pie. Why is the census important to you? It's important because it means $1,300 per resident per year to every single Surprise resident. That money will be used for road improvements, building senior centers, enhancing public safety, and also building hospitals and medical facilities. Please keep in mind that every person that is not counted as part of the census, we will lose $1,300 a year. It's also important to know that Arizona will likely gain congressional seats with this new census. There's a big population increases in the Northwest Valley since 2000. We need a stronger voice in Washington. Please fill out the census form to make sure that we're represented. In March, you're going to get your census form in the mail. It'll be the second or third week in March. It'll include a cover letter, a form, and a paid return envelope, so there's no cost to you whatsoever. It only takes you 10 minutes to answer the survey and includes only 10 simple questions. We ask that you please respond by mailing your census form no later than April 1st. People are also concerned about the confidentiality of the census information. Are your answers private? Yes, they are. They're completely confidential. The census information is not shared with any commercial, political, law enforcement, or tax agencies of any kind. So the census information is completely private, and you should feel very confident that information will not be shared with anybody. The census is used for all people living in your home. It does not matter whether or not they're United States citizens or not. That does include non-citizens. So if you're a non-citizen or you have a non-citizen living in your home, please still fill out the census form accurately and mail it in. Part-time residency is a concern as well. Please fill out your form here in the City of Surprise. Even if you're part-time, you should complete the census form. The form does ask if you live somewhere else part of the time, but please make sure to fill it out here in the City of Surprise. Forms will be mailed to you both here and in another community if you have dual residency. But don't fill out the form twice. Please fill it out here in the City of Surprise and mail it in prior to April 1st. And if you receive another census form, if you're transitioning in the month of April, please don't fill it out again. The census form, again, is very simple. It really asks only 4 general questions. Is the housing unit that you're living in owned or rented? It asks you for your telephone number in case the census worker has to do a follow-up call, and asks you also how many people are living in the home with you. Any others living with you at the home as of April 1st should be counted as part of the census. It's very important. Could be a care provider, could be daycare, could be a relative. Make sure that you include every single person that is living in your home as of April 1st. You will also ask questions about the name, gender, date of birth, age, relationship, and race with every single person living in your household. It may also ask if individual people live with you part of the time or full time. Please answer those questions simply and truthfully. You probably wonder, why does the form ask for names? Well, it helps prevent making mistakes. For example, someone may have a name that could be a male or a female, so that's why they ask you for that name. They also want to ensure that there's no double counting. It also could help to make sure that we can prove residency, family relationship, or something of that matter in the future, such as for Social Security purposes. It's also important for us to get information through the census about race. Race has been asked for many, many years. In fact, back to 1790 during the first census. It's important because that racial denomination is used to determine congressional and other voting district boundaries. Hispanic origin is also important and has been asked since 1970. This helps ensure that we, the City of Surprise, and other localities are complying with civil rights laws. It can also help determine local need for bilingual programming. It's really important for you to fill out the census to the best of your ability. If you don't fill out the census and mail it in by April 1st, then census workers will attempt to contact you at your home or by phone up to 6 times. A census worker will visit your home, but only if you don't return the census form. So again, please go ahead and fill out the form and send it in. If someone comes to your home 6 times and you still can't get an accurate count of your home, then the census workers may ask your neighbors about how many people are living in your home. So do them all a favor and go ahead and fill out the form in March and mail it in by April 1st. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to look on the City of Surprise website, surpriseaz.com, and look for the Census 2010 logo at the bottom right-hand corner. You can also contact the U.S. Census Bureau at their website, the Maricopa Association of Government, or if you'd like to talk to someone directly, please call planner David Neal at 623-222-3136. Thank you very much for listening, and please take part in this very important process.
Have you checked out the new Surprise City store? What are you waiting for? Located on the first floor of the new Surprise City Hall. It has all the latest surprise gear you need. Shirts, hats, mugs, stuffed animals, and much more. Looking for that special gift or a way to show your hometown pride? We have something for you at the Surprise City store. Stop by Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or shop online anytime at surprisecitystore.com.
Census 2010 forms will be arriving in your mailbox in mid-March. Complete and return the 10-question survey by April 1st. It only takes 10 minutes, guaranteed. All results are confidential and will provide the Census Bureau with an accurate count of our population. And each Surprise resident is worth $1,300 in federal funds to help pay for local public safety, transportation, and other civic improvements. Learn more at surpriseaz.com/census2010. And remember, Census 2010, count me in.
We're busy people. We're doing our jobs. We're having fun. We're keeping up with life. And all along the way, we're harming an essential element to life itself, the air. Our daily activities, the way we get around town, the way we do our jobs, even the way we maintain our lawns. It all adds up, and it's making our air here in Maricopa County unhealthy to breathe. And it's no surprise who it affects most. Children, the elderly, people with lung disease, heart disease, and asthma. Clearly, something has to change. It all comes down to choices. If more people choose to carpool or take public transportation, if more people put down their leaf blower and pick up a broom, if more households conserve energy, and more employers work with their people to ensure compliance, we can stop making unhealthy air and start making clean air.
It's everyone's responsibility. We all have to do our part.
We all need to bike more.
It's our mess. We need to clean it up.
Go to cleanairmakemore.com. Make the clean air commitment and make a difference.
Clean air. Make more.
The Surprise City Council meets the second and fourth Thursdays of each month here at City Hall at 6 p.m. You can watch the meetings live on Surprise 11. The Surprise Planning and Zoning Commission meets the first Tuesday of every month at the City Hall Council Chambers, 16,000 North Civic Center Plaza, and you can check the broadcast here on Surprise 11. Dial a Ride in Surprise is at your service. To schedule a ride weekdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., call 623-222-1622. Become a Surprise volunteer. There are plenty of opportunities to choose from. Training is provided and the hours are flexible. Call 623-222-1500 for more information. Surprise is proud to offer curbside recycling. Do your part by recycling the right way. If you use a blue recycle container, no bags, please. And for the black trash bin, please use a bag. And remember, it's a violation to block sidewalks. Place these bins on the street, wheels to the curb. If you find a beehive on your property, don't call 911 unless the bees pose a threat. Also, don't call the fire department. You will need to call a bee specialist or exterminator for safe removal. You can find them in the yellow pages. Help keep Surprise beautiful. Join the Adopt a Street program. Groups there work to pick up litter along 1-mile stretches of Surprise roadways at least 4 times a year. Training is required and necessary tools and clothing will be provided. You must be at least 12 years of age to participate. Looking to land a career with the city? Then visit surpriseaz.com/soar. You can apply for city jobs online, track the status of that position 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The Surprise Fire Department reminds all residents that they will provide and install a free battery-operated smoke detector to anyone that currently does.
We're not only experiencing the seasonal flu, but we're also seeing the novel H1N1 virus. We'll explain the difference and have tips on staying healthy. Find out why some Surprise police officers are racing teenagers and how you can get breaking emergency news straight to your phone. All that and more coming up on Dispatch. Hi, I'm Christina Estes. Welcome to Dispatch, a show where we catch up with Surprise police and fire departments on a variety of public safety topics. Certainly a big issue right now is flu season. Joining us to talk about prevention are Surprise Fire Chief Michael White and Medical Director Dr. Garth Gamer. Chief White, let's start with you. A lot of folks have heard the H1N1 flu virus, which originally was called the swine flu. Tell us, what's the city doing to prepare to deal with this pandemic?
Well, what we've done is we've taken our flu pandemic plan and we've enhanced it. The city manager asked us back in May, once the pandemic started surfacing, to develop a continuity plan, a business continuity plan for the city, and how would we staff trucks, how would we provide vital essential services to the citizens if, in fact, that we had a pandemic here and we had large absenteeism. So we've broken down the city into each department. Each department has extensively looked out to find out what are the essential functions that have to be done, that we can't get along without providing service to citizens. So each department has worked out a plan, and also we've looked at what happens, how are we going to do a deployment or staffing in all the city departments if we started getting 25, 50% or more absenteeism. So enhancing this plan and then with our flu plan, telling all of our employees, this is how you stay healthy and you don't spread it in your family, because we want them to be able to come to work to be able to provide the services for our citizens.
So you've got a plan in place that says even if a whole bunch of city employees get sick, we've got you covered, because we know what the priorities are and we're going to have that staffed.
Yeah, absolutely. We know exactly what are the vital services that need to be done, and we'll try everything that we can to keep everything up and running and smooth and seamless without even noticing.
Now, Dr. Gamer, when we first heard about this, a lot of people referred to it as the swine flu. The federal government's now using H1N1. What is the H1N1 virus?
Originally, why they referred to it as the swine flu is they thought it jumped from swine, pigs, to humans, and it's a lot more complex than that, the origin of this virus. And so to call it the swine flu is technically not correct. So all influenza viruses are named by the proteins they have on their surfaces, and there's H proteins and N proteins. And the type of H protein, the type of N protein, they're numbered, and so that's why this particular virus is H1N1, the virus that had been known as the swine flu virus. Other influenza viruses are designated, for instance, H3N1 or H2N1 or H2N3. And the standard seasonal flu vaccine covers usually 3 different flu viruses. Now, the seasonal flu vaccine had been in manufacture before the April advent of the swine flu. So what it remained for the CDC to do was to come up with a vaccine specifically for the H1N1 flu particle. And this was very important because the H1N1 type of flu strain was that flu strain that caused the Spanish flu back in 1918 that killed millions of people worldwide. So although this virus doesn't seem to be as nasty or virulent as that particular virus, it always is something that you worry about, that these can mutate. So a lot of effort went into the H1N1 vaccine. The difference of the viruses from the H1N1 to seasonal flu isn't that great. It's the disease that's caused by the viruses isn't that different, or isn't that different than seasonal flu, but it's just going to be more widespread, and it covers a few different risk groups, and that's why it's important.
How do I know whether I had the seasonal flu or H1N1? Because the symptoms seem pretty similar.
They are very similar, and we have certain hints about what's causing flu-like symptoms. First of all, flu-like symptoms are much more severe than the usual run-of-the-mill crud or the usual cold viruses that are out there. You're definitely sick with the flu virus if you have it. You've got temperatures usually about 102. You've got headaches, you've got sore throat, you've got dry cough, and you feel lousy and devoid of energy. That's pretty much the way both of these flu types behave. What's interesting about the H1N1, it hits certain populations much harder than seasonal flu does. For instance, what they've found is that a big risk group for H1N1 is that population between 6 months of age and 24 years of age. The seasonal flu hits the very young, say under 2 years of age, and the very old, greater than 65 years of age. They both have a predilection for the usual suspects, cardiac disease, and those people with cardiac disease, diabetes, kidney disease, liver disease. Another problem with the H1N1 is that it goes for people with muscular dystrophies, and we were just talking about this before taping that there's somebody that you know of that has polio, and they're dealing with their primary care physician to get the H1N1 vaccine. I would very much recommend to that person that they get the H1N1 vaccine. Getting back to the subject, that you can't really tell the difference between the flu types, but the timing of the H1N1, it never went away. There's been a low level of this in the community ever since it was discovered in April. Seasonal flu is generally a December through March proposition, and that's why we're very concerned about the H1N1 vaccine getting out quickly so that a lot of people can get the immunity that the H1N1 vaccine will give you.
Before we talk a little more about the vaccine, a lot of folks, when they hear pandemic, it kind of freaks them out because it sounds like a pretty scary thing. What is a pandemic versus epidemic, and are we in a pandemic right now?
We've been in a pandemic ever since shortly after the discovery of the H1N1 virus. The term pandemic, there's about 6 different characteristics of a outbreak that has the World Health Organization calling something a pandemic. And you can have very low levels of illness in the community and still be in the throes of a pandemic. An epidemic is a more widespread, greater than 40% of the population are affected by that. And and it shouldn't be swept under the rug that they are concerned, that the CDC is concerned that there's going to be up to 40 to 50% of the population that may have problems with the H1N1, and that's why preventative measures and the vaccine are so important, so we can kind of stem that tide.
What can we do to stay healthy?
Well, a lot of this is, as a lot of medicine is good common sense and listening to what your mom told you back when. Cover your cough and your sneeze. Wash your hands. The latest recommendations are you should wash your hands long enough so that you can say the alphabet.
I learned that covering a story at a preschool, and so I actually do that.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
I think you're going to be healthy through this whole season. And so the preventative things are definitely something that you need to carry out, because you might not be in a target group for the vaccine. The vaccine is the single most important thing you can do to keep yourself from getting H1N1. One of the things that's come out just in the last week is that it's not going to be a 2-dose regimen for most people. Ages 9 and under, it's still going to be a 2-dose regimen, but for people 10 and older, it's only going to be 1 immunization, and that'll get a great percentage of people covered.
And if people are interested in the vaccine, what do you recommend?
I recommend that they talk to their family doctor about it. If you don't have a family doctor, get one before this all evolves. If you have children, make sure that you touch base with their pediatrician and ask that they be considered for the H1N1 vaccine, and that their office notify you when the H1N1 vaccine becomes available to their offices, because the CDC has suggested that that is a major focus, is the 6-month to 24 years of age group, just because of their close proximity in schools, colleges, and that sort of thing.
Well, Chief, your crews, they need to be able to respond 24/7, so they really need to take steps to protect themselves as well. So what are you guys doing?
Well, you know, we already have a very comprehensive health plan in the fire department, because we do see these sick patients all the time. So we use universal precautions, and that we have you know, masks, and then we give things for people to wash their hands and all this. But providing them with information like Dr. Gamer was saying is that, you know, we're telling our employees and city employees that, look, you've had the flu before. When you feel sick and you feel the achiness and the coughing, you know you're sick, stay home. Don't bring it to the station, because you don't want to be a typhoid Mary and give it to somebody else, and it will spread very, very rapidly. So one, we're saying, telling people, stay home. Secondly, we're reminding people that, look, go to your family physician, see them. Don't overcrowd the emergency rooms, because what will happen in both his job and my job is that with this flu season, people will start calling 911. Well, there are true emergencies that happen with the flu, but for the most part, it's the mundane person they're sick. Yes, they are, and they go to the emergency room, to an already overpopulated emergency room, so it backs up there. So, one, it's those couple of things. Secondly, is through the state, you know, they've identified some high-risk groups of people that need to be vaccinated for the H1N1. One, we're telling people we're providing shots here through the city for regular seasonal flu, but we've also ordered a number of vaccinations to keep these critical essential functions happening in the city. So we are going to use a 3-tiered system, and we are going to vaccinate those that are directly with healthcare related, like our paramedics, firefighters, then police officers, and then all those critical functions that happen in the city to keep the water running, the lights on, all the things that have to happen, we will be able to vaccinate our employees that way. So we think we have a pretty healthy plan that it won't be 100%, but we think that we can probably at least curb the biggest majority. And I think, like what Dr. Gamer was saying, it's mostly education and remembering to take just those simple steps about cough etiquette and social distancing between people. And you've heard about the French; they're not kissing on the cheeks anymore because of this. So, there's some strategies that help to curb this.
And for people who'd like to get some more information, you said there was a couple of good websites out there.
Yeah, there is through the Public Health Department. We are publichealth.org, and then stopthespread.org and cdc.gov. There's a bunch of information there that will probably overwhelm you, but some very good ideas on how to care for those that are sick in your house and not spread it amongst your other kids. So great websites out there, and also on the city website.
Thank you both. Great information. Chief White, Dr. Gamer, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Still ahead on Dispatch, find out how surprise police are teaming up with teenagers and how you could be the first to get emergency breaking news.
The third annual Disability and Human Services Summit is coming up on Saturday, February 20th at Radiant Church in Surprise. This year's topics of discussion include ADA 20 years later, advocating for an effective individual education program, assistive technology, autism and applied behavioral analysis, and care for the caregiver. In addition, approximately 25 exhibitors will be on hand promoting human services and disability services. The event is free. For more information, visit disabilitysummit2010.eventbrite.com or call 623-222-2257.
Welcome back. If you like being in the know, you'll love the latest tool being offered by Surprise Police. Chief Dan Hughes joins us to talk about the Emergency Alert System. Chief, thanks for being with us. Tell us how the system works.
Well, it's good to be here, and the alert system works in a couple ways. You can be part of the traffic alert system, which will notify you if there's a traffic jam, say on Bell Road or Greenway or whatever road. It'll tell you that there's a traffic problem and give you an approximate time that it's going to be over, and then it will also tell you when the traffic problem is over. So you actually get two alerts. Second part is you can be part of the emergency alert system that will tell you, let's say that we have a lost person, a lost child, an Amber Alert, and it will notify you of a problem like that. And then again, it will let you know when the problem's over. So you can go to the city's website or to the PD's website and sign up.
I know some people don't really like getting text alerts at odd hours when they may be working or sleeping. When you go to the city's website and sign up, can you set parameters into when you want to be notified?
There are parameters, and it's a step-by-step direction on the city's website that'll tell you exactly how to sign up and all the parameters that go with it.
Another great way for people to get involved in the community is by getting to know their neighbors. The October 24th GAIN event was just one way. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, GAIN's really a real important event for the Surprise Police Department. GAIN stands for Getting Arizona Involved in the Neighborhood. And this will be a big event. It's on the 24th, so the kids can come out. There'll be costume events. There'll be games. It's so families can get together and know one another, and then it gives them an opportunity to learn about Block Watch and what they can do and what their part is to help keep their neighborhood safe. So it's a great event. It's a good time. It shows you how easy it is to be part of the solution in keeping the city safe.
How much of a difference does it really make if somebody knows their neighbors versus, never saying hello and not knowing who's coming or going?
What's really important is they know a little bit about their neighbor. They just need to know what kind of car they drive, a little bit about their patterns, and it makes a huge difference. If you see something suspicious, it probably is suspicious, and you need to call the police department. But if you don't know anything about your neighborhood, you won't know when to call in. And just a quick call can really stop a crime in progress. It can make your neighborhood a lot safer.
A lot of neighborhood groups have regular events or at least annual events to get to know each other. What can you do year-round to get to know your neighbors and to be involved?
Well, we have a great new program called Business Watch. And the people who are involved in Block Watch are actually given a card, and they can go to participating businesses, and they'll give them a discount for simply being involved in Block Watch. So it's kind of a two-for. you get your neighborhood safer, and you get a discount for being involved. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, that sounds like a great deal.
It is.
When did you begin that program, and how many businesses involved?
Right now, there are over 30 businesses already signed up and more on their way, and so we look for it to be a really good event. Year-round, it's going to be something that I think will really take off throughout the entire city.
Now, you're also looking to get younger people involved in some fun and safe activities, and you're doing this through the help of some faith-based groups. Talk a little bit about that.
We've got together with a lot of the churches and the faith-based groups in Surprise, and we meet monthly, excuse me, and we discuss what's important, and it has to do a lot with the kids. And so we've put on one big event, a back-to-school event. We had over 400 kids involved. We're going to do another event on the 31st of October, Halloween, and we're looking to partner again with the Recreation Department at Sierra Montana, and we'll have a nice event there, and it'll be just an opportunity to interact with families and kids again. And this is going to be again for the 14 to 17-year-olds. This is probably just one of many that will continue as we continue our interaction with these groups.
When you have these events with young people involved, what can they expect? I mean, you show up, sometimes you show up and you know, no offense, but you hear an event where there's going to be police officers, and it doesn't necessarily sound like it's going to be the most fun that you've ever had. So what do young people look forward to? What can they do?
A really good time, because police officers are real fun. We're good
well, we
people.
know you are, Chief.
Last time we had tug of war. We had police officers were involved in the tug of war. We had dodgeball. We had lots of games, lots of food. Everything was free, and it was provided just so the kids could have a place to go and have a good time. The faith community has just been awesome to work with, and they really have a real love for the kids, and it's worked out well for everyone involved.
And why do these events? I mean, because there's got to be a lot of planning that goes into it, a lot of work that goes into it. Why do it?
Kids need somewhere to go, and they need some really good things to keep them occupied, and this is one of the ways to do it. It's a good, wholesome opportunity to go out, be with your friends. It's a safe environment. You get to meet a lot of people. You get to interact with adults and the police department and everyone else who's there. So there's no downside to it at all.
Well, you're also finding fun on the racetrack with a program called Beat the Heat. And how's that going?
We're getting beat. So it's another good program where kids, adults, anyone who wants to come out, and they can race against our squad cars. We have a black Mustang that's Surprise Police Department, and they can line up and race against us, and it gives them an opportunity to race their car in a way that's safe. It's on the track, and it's just a great event. And if you should win, which some people do, they get a t-shirt that says I beat the heat. So there's no downside to that either. It's just another great opportunity to interact and have a good time. And you get out there, and we talk about safety and car safety, and the kids aren't out on the back roads trying to drag race. This way it's controlled, it's a great environment, no one's going to get hurt or injured, and it's just a well-developed program. We're real excited.
Tell us where it takes place and how often you do this.
Speed World, which is off Grand Avenue, and we do it once a month, and then we try and do a little bigger event, maybe quarterly. So I'm not sure which Wednesday it is, but it is once a month. But if you visit Speed World, you can check it out, or you can check it out on our website.
What kind of feedback do you get? From the officers and from the kids? Oh, it's great. The volunteer officers that are doing it love it. The kids that we've interacted with have had a great time. They, again, you see a police officer in a much different light than stopping you and giving you a citation for speeding. You're looking at them across the line, and you're hitting the accelerator and going as fast as you can. So it's a great opportunity. The mayor was there last time, and we raced in his Cadillac. And how'd you do?
Well, we won 2 out of 3, so.
Oh, not bad.
He was good. I was his co-pilot, and down the road we went.
Is there a limit as far as the number of participants each time? How does that work?
Nope. You line up, and they just keep you going, one right after another, and we'll go as long as the kids want to go, or it doesn't have to be kids necessarily. It could be anybody, but primarily we've dealt a lot with the kids, and it's been real good. It's given them a different opportunity. We get to talk about the dangers of unlawful drag racing, and we get to talk about the proper way to handle your vehicles. So it's a great interaction.
They get to have fun and learn something.
Absolutely.
Do you do the fun first or the learning first?
Both. They talk about the safety of the vehicle and what to look for if you're going to be on the drag strip, and then so they talk about how to safely maneuver it, and then it's get out there and go for it.
Well, aside from racing, some people have shopping on their minds.